Welcome to the MAHA Media Hub, and welcome to the MAHA Revolution. I'm Tony Lyons, president of MAHA Action. Last week, Secretary Kennedy and the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, announced something that will change the way the next generation of doctors is taught and trained. Because of Secretary Kennedy's leadership, his popularity, and his ability to negotiate for great outcomes, 53 top medical schools in 31 states have agreed to significantly expand nutrition training. The medical schools that are part of this agreement are helping to transform the way we think about food. As Secretary Kennedy has said, food is medicine. And because of this, future doctors need to understand the huge potential of improved nutrition as the key tool in our arsenal against chronic disease. This shift will enable physicians to move beyond symptom management with pharmaceuticals towards proactive, evidence-based guidance on real whole foods, helping patients prevent, manage, and even reverse conditions like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. Schools will conduct curriculum assessments, appoint dedicated faculty champions to oversee nutrition education, and publicly share their implementation plans, fostering accountability and transparency without federal mandates on specific content. Ultimately, this reform promises to strengthen doctor-patient connections, reduce long-term healthcare costs, and align medical practice with the growing recognition that nutrition sits at the heart of true health and wellness. Here's the bottom line. For decades, millions of Americans have asked for a system of genuine healthcare to replace our palliative system of sick care. Many have talked, but Secretary Kennedy is delivering. This is a huge win for MAHA and for all Americans. But with every win, there will be those who want to manipulate and drive a wedge between Secretary Kennedy and the president, or between one faction of MAHA and another. We can disagree, and we should disagree. We should argue, we should demand accountability and transparency, but we should not allow ourselves to be manipulated by the very forces and the companies that have poisoned us. The only way they can defeat us is if they can find a way to divide us, and they know that. At our Eat Real Food rally in Austin, Texas, Secretary Kennedy addressed the urgent need for accurate, up-to-date consumer information about the unhealthy drinks that are sold throughout the country. This is what he actually said. We're going to ask Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, show us the safety data that proves to us that it's okay for a teenage girl to drink an iced coffee with 115 grams of sugar in it. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, said Secretary Kennedy. He later clarified that at no time and in no place will anything be banned. Secretary Kennedy has always been on the side of freedom, on the free marketplace of ideas. But in order for freedom to be exercised intelligently, consumers must have access to information, to the countervailing arguments that they can listen to and then decide for themselves what they want to do. There is no settled science, and we don't want, under any circumstances, to substitute one form of settled science for another. Whether the issue is informed consent, over-medicalization, nutrition, pesticides, vaccines, or toxins in absolutely anything, we want to engage the full range of stakeholders in robust dialogue that leads to practical, common sense ways to solve problems. And most importantly, we want to make it easier and more affordable to be healthy. An important piece of the puzzle in making this country healthy is the confirmation of Dr. Casey Means as Surgeon General. Her nomination remains stalled in the Senate with two key Republican votes from Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski in play. Dr. Means bravely exposes how our healthcare system is really a sick care system, that it prioritizes treatments, drugs, surgeries, rather than focusing on prevention, on getting to the root causes of chronic disease. The medical profession is claiming that Dr. Means is a threat to public health, but we know that she's just a threat to the corruption that has led to the chronic disease epidemic in this country. The MAHA movement needs a truth teller, not a puppet for the broken system. So, call Senator Collins and Murkowski today. Call them and urge them to approve Casey. Casey Means is the person we need for this job. So, please really help us with that. On today's Media Hub, we'll be joined by Senator Rand Paul, then by chiropractor and vice president of the University Achievement at Life, Dr. Gilles LaMarche, then functional medicine practitioner and author, Dr. Daniel Pompa, fourth generation cattle farmer and owner of White Oak Pastures, Will Harris, and then physician, inventor, scientist, and author, Dr. Robert Malone, and then MAHA Action Strategic Initiatives lead, Leigh Merinoff, and then chef and author of the MAHA Cookbook, Pete Evans, and finally, comedian and podcast host and visionary, Russell Brand. So first up, we have Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor to the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Stephanie Haradopoulos. She's a board-certified family medicine physician, a medical writer, and a public health advocate. Welcome, Dr. Haradopoulos.
Well, thank you very much. Tony, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, today, I know I have only a few minutes, so I want to get the bottom line up front. We have the National Women's Health Conference tomorrow. In fact, I'm about to go over there for the reception tonight, and it's exciting that I'm going to be moderating a panel on invisible illnesses. Now, you remember in the fall, we had both the long COVID roundtable as well as the Lyme disease roundtable back in December. And this is the second time I'm on MAHA Action Hub. So I'm happy to report it's one thing to have a roundtable, but now it's action items. What are we doing about it? So tomorrow, we'll be moderating a robust panel with Lyme disease and autoimmune conditions in women, making invisible visible with data and technology. As you may or may not know, 80% of all autoimmune cases, unfortunately, women are the victims of. They honestly have the brunt of both Lyme disease, long COVID, and autoimmune, probably related to their genetics and X-linked. But however, there's so much to it. So yesterday, this is amazing, and I think the long COVID community is going to be so happy about it. We launched, and I sent Tony the website. It's called hhs.gov/long COVID. And it's a federal government's central digital front door. So a single trusted resource that brings coordination and transparency to the condition. Long COVID is distinct multi-system chronic disease that affects more than 18 million Americans and continues to disrupt health, work, and daily life long after initial infection. So this was an effort to have those patients be seen by connecting patients, clinicians, and researchers to a coordinated federal efforts, strengthening diagnostics, clinical care, and data-driven solutions across the department. This is aligned with President Trump's vision to deliver accountable, results-driven government for the American people. And of course, our beloved Secretary Kennedy's commitment to prevention of root causes and scientific integrity as we are rebuilding public health to be patient-centered, coordinated, and accountable. So we're breaking down silos and aligning the department, preventing duplicity, and bringing real outcomes to patients with clarity and not confusion going forward. So if you have a chance to look at hhs.gov/long COVID link that went live yesterday, we are super proud about that. And I think that the long COVID community is happy to see that we are continuing the efforts. There's also going to be some big announcements tomorrow at the Women's Health Conference in the invisible illness space. So stay tuned for that. Embargoed till then, but just giving you a little teaser about that, but other things that we've been working on. So that's exciting. And with the last minute can you indulge me? Since we're talking about women's health, I don't know if everyone knows on there, but HRSA just at the beginning of this year updated their guidelines on cervical cancer screening to where now cervical cancer could be a home kit that could be prescribed by a physician and collected at home. And I really want everyone to know about that. Insurance companies will actually start paying for it January 2027. And when cervical cancer is detected early, you have a 90% 5-year survival rate. And so the home kits reduce the barriers such as, transportation or time off work or childcare, or even just the stigma or discomfort of getting a pap smear. And so as a family medicine physician, I know early detection is so key to decrease mortality and help with early detection and treatment so the disease doesn't spread. So if you guys have a chance to look at what HRSA cervical cancer change guidelines happened just at the beginning of this year, I think it's revolutionary in that space. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you so much for giving me the time to talk to you all today.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And, it does seem like long COVID, Lyme, that these are problems that the government brought us. So it's so great to see people in government like you working to solve these problems. And, and it's great to hear about cancer screening and about early treatment, early detection, because, those things are so critical to the war on cancer. So thanks for all the great work you're doing.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you on once again.
All inspired by our Secretary Kennedy. Thank you.
Thanks so
Take
much.
All right, bye-bye.
Next up, we have Dr. Robert Malone. He is, one of the great voices for medical freedom. He's the author of a couple of terrific books. He's a member of the CDC's advisory group on vaccine practices. And he's a friend to MAHA and an incredibly passionate and hardworking doctor. And I'm so glad to have him on once again. Welcome.
Thanks a lot, Tony. I'm just back from the nation's premier nutrition research and development facility at Pennington in Louisiana. And I look forward to those folks being able to participate in these conversations. They're just doing fantastic work. But right now, I want to talk about a new kind of Surgeon General for a new kind of crisis. America is sick, not metaphorically, quite literally. We're the most chronically ill, high-income nation on earth. Nearly half of American adults have diabetes or prediabetes. Obesity affects more than 40% of our population. Heart disease, the leading killer, is largely preventable, and yet we're not preventing it. For decades, we've had surgeon generals with sterling credentials, completed residencies, active licenses, and perfect resumes. And meanwhile, the health of the American people has gotten worse on their watch. So let's be honest about what this debate concerning President Trump's choice for Surgeon General is really about. Before I address the substance, I want to note something unusual, something that should give everyone listening to this pause for reflection. Casey Means has managed to attract fierce opposition from two completely opposite directions at the same time. A nice piece of work. On one side, Democrats unanimously announced they'd vote against her, and major public health organizations lined up to call her a pseudoscience promoter. On the other side, the hard-right anti-vaccine faction, people like Steve Kirsch and Mary Talley Bowden attacked her nomination for the opposite reason, that she was insufficiently critical of vaccines. Secretary Kennedy's own former running mate, Nicole Shanahan, came out against her. Laura Loomer called her a total crackpot. Now think about that for a minute. The establishment says she's too radical. Elements of the right say she's not radical enough. When a nominee is being attacked simultaneously by the medical orthodoxy and by the people who want to burn that orthodoxy to the ground, that's not a sign of unqualified candidate. That's the signature of someone who cannot be captured by any faction. That is exactly what this moment calls for. Now let's address the specific objections. The case against Casey Means rests on two pillars: her inactive medical license, yes, she has a medical license, and her unorthodox background. Let's take each seriously because they deserve a serious answer. On the license, Casey Means earned her MD from Stanford University School of Medicine. I couldn't get into Stanford. I got into Davis, and I got into Northwestern. Stanford is a pretty high bar. She was granted a valid Oregon medical license in 2018. That license is inactive. She placed it on that status, not revoked, not suspended, not stripped for misconduct. She voluntarily placed it on inactive status in 2024 because she's not seeing patients. To maintain active status costs money, time, all kinds of stuff. She decided it's not what she needed right now. This is standard practice for thousands of physicians who move into research, policy, writing, and advocacy. There's no legal requirement that the Surgeon General hold an active license. And she said this clearly. If confirmed, she will not be practicing medicine. She'll be leading a public health movement. Those are different jobs. On her background, yes, Casey Means left her surgical residency. She became disillusioned with a system that was treating symptoms rather than causes, prescribing medications rather than addressing root problems, enriching an industry while patients stayed sick. You can disagree with that decision, but you can't call it a lack of qualification. She's got a Stanford medical degree. She has published peer-reviewed research. She's built a health technology company. She's written a widely read book on metabolic health that's reached millions of Americans. She spent years doing the unglamorous work of educating ordinary people about food, inflammation, and chronic disease, the very issues driving our national crisis. Surgeon General is not a clinician. The Surgeon General is a communicator, an educator, a national voice. And on that measure, Casey Means may be the most qualified nominee in a generation. What this process should not become is a tool for an entrenched medical and food industry establishment and their unlikely allies on the fringe to disqualify the one nominee who refuses to be owned by any of them. The opposition to Casey Means is loud, but look who's making it. The institutions that have presided over 40 years of worsening American health on one side and ideologic purists on the other. Neither group speaks for the millions of Americans who are simply tired of being sick. America does not need another Surgeon General who will manage the decline politely. We need someone who will tell the truth about ultra-processed food, about metabolic disease, and about a healthcare system that's failed the people it was built to serve. Casey Means has spent her entire career doing exactly that. And the fact that it makes everyone uncomfortable is the best argument for confirming her. MAHA should support her, and the Senate should confirm her. If she's rejected, we may never have any Surgeon General for Bobby to rely on. So put your shoulder into it, call Senator Collins, help everybody understand that Casey Means is the president's pick. She's the secretary's pick. She is exactly the Surgeon General we need for this time in our nation's history. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you so much. And, let me just restate some of that by saying, former Surgeon Generals and so many other top health officials in this country have failed their way to the top, that they presided over a public health establishment that led to the chronic disease problems we have in this country right now. And they did something that's really difficult to do. And that is that they managed to spend 2.5 times what any other industrialized country spends on public health and achieve worse health outcomes over the last 30 years. So, I think it's time to give someone else a chance, to give Casey Means a chance to challenge the status quo, to threaten the public health, people now, because they need to be challenged. They need to be scared. And I think she'll get the job done. So thanks so much for coming on. Thanks so much for all the kind words. Next up, we have Senator Rand Paul. He's been a fighter for medical freedom. He's written some great books. He's a real MAHA backer and has been. He believes in common sense and has been fighting, fake public health science that's kind of ruled the day for so many years. So proud to have him on. So proud that he keeps coming on and that he keeps fighting for justice in, medical freedom in this country. Thanks for coming on again.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me. I'd like to tell everybody today about a bill I've recently introduced. It's called the End the Vaccine Carve-Out Act. This bill finally repeals one of the widest and most generous liability shields that exists in the U.S. Code. Currently, if you take a vaccine and have a serious adverse reaction, you must first navigate a special government court called the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program before you can get to your constitutional right to a trial by jury. Simply put, if a product can't survive in a free market without special legal protection from the federal government, then maybe it shouldn't be available to customers. The ability to sue for damages is one of the hallmarks of the English common law that our legal system is based on. If people think that it's too easy to sue, then we should be talking about tort reform to ensure frivolous lawsuits don't take up valuable court time. But I don't think we should be protecting the pharmaceutical companies from liability. Exempting them from liability is a mistake. The federal government's job is not to ensure the stable legal risk for vaccine manufacturers. It's to uphold Americans' right to a trial by jury. And we shouldn't be making exceptions to this rule for things just because the public health establishment deems something important. If anything, something that the public health establishment wants to protect from lawsuits should be viewed with heightened scrutiny. Under the current law, COVID-19 vaccines receive pandemic-era liability protections under a bill that was called the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act, the PrEP Act. They still have this liability protection until 2029. My bill would end this classification immediately. It would immediately take away the liability protections for the COVID vaccine. Hundreds of millions of vaccine doses were administered amidst vaccine mandates to people who didn't want the vaccine, but those with serious side effects are left without much legal recourse. Vaccination should be a voluntary choice, not influenced by government picking winners and losers in the legal system. So I think we should uphold the rule of law by passing this. I know there'll be a lot of support among the MAHA community, but it's called End the Vaccine Carve-Out Act now. I've got it in the Senate. It's been introduced in the House. And I think it's high time that we look at the idea of, this blanket liability, I think, adds to the safety risk because the companies then see that they'll never be sued. And so I think it leads to more sloppiness, less safety, and more risks for the patient. But I hope everybody will look at it, come to our website or our Facebook or wherever we are on the internet and help get others to support this legislation. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks so much, Rand. And, it's such an important point that MAHA can never be on the side of liability shields, not for vaccines, not for pesticides, not for anything. I mean, companies have to stand behind their products. And if they're not forced to do that, they have no incentive to change, no incentive to create better products, no incentive to protect the American public. And, these are companies that are out to make as much money as they can, and they need lawsuits to sort of keep them honest and to give them an incentive to do a better job and to create better products that are safer for the public. So thanks so much for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Russell Brand. And Russell is a visionary, a comedian, an incredible writer, and a big backer of all the things that really matter to the MAHA movement. So thanks again. Thanks for coming on, Russell. Thanks for coming on time after time. I'm your biggest fan. I love you, and great to see you again.
I love you too. Will you stay on with me, Tony, and interview me some so that we, get a different type of timbre? Because I've just come on. I didn't really see what Senator Rand Paul said, although I have interviewed him myself on my own show before. What was your main takeaway from talking to him?
Well, it was about liability shield. So he was saying that, that it's a great scourge on public health to have 40 years of a liability shield for vaccines. That how can we have products that you can't challenge? That you're supposed to agree that vaccines, whether they've been discovered or produced yet or not, that they're always going to be safe. It's such an incredible thing for anybody to be willing to believe that. But they were willing to, they were able to brainwash everybody in the country to make them believe that products that haven't been created, that haven't been tested, that have all different things in them. Some of them have, one of them has borax in it. that you can go to jail if you put it in food. So it's just really crazy. And he made a great point that it just needs to change.
Sometimes I get a sensation comparable to vertigo when I think about the number of people that will be negatively impacted by a piece of legislation like that, and how it seems implausible that it can ever change, so entrenched, even with something as significant as the kind of appointments that have taken place around this movement of which you're such a significant part, even with Pacey Means, please God, getting confirmed. Like it makes me feel, what can we do? That's the macro scale of it. Then on the sort of personal scale of it, having a son with medical challenges. My boy was born with DiGeorge syndrome and tetralogy of Fallot, which meant he had heart surgery when he's 12 weeks old. And Dr. Oz, I can't, ever really articulate how he demonstrated what good doctors are. Like, authoritative, kind, caring, present, clear, and he introduced us to the man that eventually operated on my son's heart and performed the life-saving surgery. Now, because of the DiGeorge syndrome, my boy has some complications, and but like among them, a kind of a calcium deficiency. So we take him to like a dentist, and we're in Florida now, by God's grace, and in and when we go and see a regular dentist, what the dentist will say is, he needs sort of fillings and his teeth capped and stuff because of this calcium deficiency. And now, because of my involvement in MAHA, actually, I'm attuned to when people don't talk about root causes, I immediately recognize that there is a deficiency. I'm not saying that this particular dentist isn't brilliant and excellent, but what it helps me to diagnose as a patient, or in this case, the parent and advocate for a patient, if this person's not talking about the root cause of the problem, they've not got what you might call a MAHA perspective. They're not saying, in order to redress this calcium deficiency, this needs to happen. The boy is obviously, and I for myself have been taught a new way of looking at things that I now recognize. The teeth are like expressions, they're skeletal, they're expressions of the skeleton. And if if you're talking to a medical professional and the medical professional doesn't say, this is the dietary component, this is what's happening at the level of genesis, then immediately I have doubt. I went, even prior to sort of having the privilege of knowing the educators and leaders that regularly join these calls, Eric Berg et al., Tony, obviously, and some of the political and medical professionals that we all have the good grace of knowing. When my wife had our first baby, she read about hypnobirthing. And in learning that, we saw how the process of childbirth had been, over time, medicalized. Now, of course, anyone who knows anything about infant mortality rates in Victorian Britain, or what used to be regarded as the third world, I don't know the correct vernacular now, these things change so fast. It's obvious that under certain circumstances, there is a requirement for medical aid connected to childbirth. But it's equally obvious that that shouldn't be utilized to diminish the authority of the mother or the power of the woman. And when I sort of learned that as a result of my wife Laura's, she was educating herself and I was the beneficiary of that education secondarily, it made me realize, oh yes, I bet this is an identifiable paradigm within medicine. Not that that means people are necessarily bad, but in order for medicine to be maximally profitable, the aspects of medicine that lead to profit, one scarcely dare think about cardiology and oncology, the choices that have been made over time to make these industries, because they are indeed industries, maximally profitable. And something like what Senator Rand Paul there was talking about, saying that a veneer of protection over vaccines creates a bias. And I remember Aaron Siri explaining to me once that legal indemnity in itself was creating the problem. It's creating a bias. If in any other market there was an area that was uniquely profitable because of indemnity, you know, these big corporations, of course, they have a spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, there's like, well, this is what we put aside for all the times we're going to get sued, whether it's GM Motors or Monsanto or whoever. If you can remove that from one product, that's a more profitable product. In a sense, I see now that what needs to happen is the decommercialization, the decommodification of medicine en masse. And I suppose I garner further tools for that purview every time I come on here. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that you can never have real change with liability shields. You can't really ever have products or have progress because you just have these companies that are then stuck, and they're stuck because it's so profitable if you don't change. And the MAHA perspective is never going to be to sort of hack away at the branches of evil, you know, that we want to get to the root, and we want to comprehend things, to investigate, to learn, to change, you know, to challenge the status quo. That's the only way we can make real progress. That's the only way we can have real science in this country. So, you know, that's what I think Rand Paul meant. And, you know, that's what all the people who come on this call really care about.
Thanks, man.
So thanks a lot. And we'll keep talking about your book, which is going to come out soon. So next up, we have Leigh Merinoff. And Leigh is the owner and operator of Meadows Bee Farm. It's a biodynamic farm, you know, with a raw milk dairy in southern Vermont. She is a board member and, you know, possibly the most important person in MAHA Action, and all the different MAHA groups. She's leader of the strategic group that, you know, looks at all of the new areas and helps build them up, get them going, and then move on to the next thing. Doing a fantastic job. So happy to have her on today to discuss some of the new things that she's working on. Welcome, Leigh.
Great. Well, thank you, Tony. It's really a little bit hard going on after Russell, but Russell, you were a little bit calmer today, so that was good. Today, I really have the honor to give you the update on where we are at MAHA Strategic Initiatives. Our program, as Tony mentioned, we are focused now on the RHTP program. And though most of you know, that's the Rural Health Transformation Program, the biggest program out of CMS, 5-year, $50 billion grant program, which gives $200 million to each state for the next 5 years. So CMS has let us all know they're looking for innovative, sustainable, and MAHA-aligned ideas. Their goal is to spark innovative care, improve health outcomes, support workforce development, and bring in new technology for more efficient services, which will result in better health. The states are prioritizing pilots that are collaborative. They want to work with their local partners, but they also want to group together pilots that have similar goals. So in responding to that, we at MAHA Action have bundled our 10 pilots into 3 new programs. The first one is the Diabetes Prevention and Telemedicine Program. Next will be Eat Real Food. And finally, our newest, which is a rural health clinic expansion. So I'd like to explain a little bit. We have the one that we've had the most for the longest is the diabetes prevention, but we've added in telemedicine. So this is a reduction of type 2 diabetes through a ketogenic diet, really looking at the root cause of the nation's chronic disease, but having the added benefit of reducing obesity. Next is a home dialysis, which shifts dialysis from the clinics right into the home. It reduces costs, improves lifestyles, and what's great is it can be done at night so patients can keep their jobs and stay in the workforce. Finally, we have a new one, which is a sleep apnea diagnostic treatment, which can be done at home. And you can diagnose sleep apnea right while you sleep. You don't have to go into that sleep clinic that a lot of people have had to go into. Next, we have Eat Real Food. Eat Real Food is a hospital food transformation program. It's being done right now in Florida, but we would like to bring it out to the other states. It is replacing processed, nutritionally poor hospital food with meals that are actually healing and support recovery. Then we have the school lunch reform. Again, it's being started in Florida, but we're trying to bring it out across the country. And that is bringing a whole nutrient-dense food into school cafeterias to address the childhood chronic illness right at its source. And also this will support the new dietary guidelines. We have an AI-powered SNAP program, which connects recipients to healthy, discounted food options, along with getting food to customers in a timely manner with recipes and coupons. So that gives them added savings and nutrition. Our final program we have that we're really excited about is a rural health clinic expansion. And this will be in truck stops, and it will have increased mental health for outpatients. What this is an urgent care network that is embedded into truck stops. So it's not only for truckers whose age of death is 31 years, but it's also for rural and underserved communities. Finally, we have a whole food delivery and marketplace system. It's a direct consumer platform making healthy prepared food, whole meals accessible nationwide. So these pilots and many more are circulating around MAHA. We are doing our best to make sure we provide them to the state governors, and we are working in a way that makes them accessible and accountable. While the grants to each state were due on December 31st, it's taken a while for each state to build their own application process, but they are opening. They started Florida this week, and many more will be rolled out across the country. It's a rush of new ideas, new innovations, and this will result in better health by focusing on the root cause of disease, not just treating it. We at MAHA Action are thrilled to be helping in this novel approach to make rural America healthy again. And we'll keep you posted as we get further along. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Leigh. You know, you're doing fantastic work, and I just want you to know that we're all grateful for the incredible work that you're doing, and that it's just, we know that you work around the clock, you travel around the country, you've met with 18 governors and their staffs, you've kept in touch with all of them, you've dealt with the chiropractors. So I just want to make sure that everybody watching today just recognizes the incredible dedication that you've shown. So thank you so much, and hope you'll just keep coming out every day. Next up, we have Dr. Gilles LaMarche. Sorry about that. He is a chiropractor, a teacher, a passionate healer, an author, a professional speaker, and a certified public development, personal development coach. He is, he found his calling as a healer when at the age of 12, he was taken to a chiropractor after years spent as, quote unquote, an unwell child. He just had real serious health problems. And he found that through chiropractic, he was able to heal and to, lead a much healthier life, and then wanted to pass that on to so many other people. He's been a chiropractor now for 47 years. So we're so happy to have you on today. Thanks for all the work you've done, and great to have you on for the first time, and hopefully many more times.
Well, thank you so much, Tony, for inviting me. I'm certainly honored to be with all these esteemed individuals today and to have participated on this call. I think 26 out of the 30-something calls you've hosted, and I'm so grateful for everything that the MAHA movement is doing. What chiropractic offers humanity is often misunderstood and sometimes not understood at all. So today, I'm going to invite you to see possibility in the abbreviated story that I'm going to share with you. In the spring of 2003, I started having major difficulty breathing. I thought I was allergic to something new, but lo and behold, I ended up in a medical doctor's office, my best friend actually, and I was diagnosed after multiple tests with a very serious condition, a terminal condition called primary pulmonary hypertension. My pulmonary pressure was measured at 57 millimeters of mercury of pressure. It's supposed to be 15. Secondary to that, my body had adapted to that back pressure for probably years, and my heart had grown to 2.5 times its normal size. So if you put your fist out in front of you, that's roughly the size of your heart. Bring 2 fists together, that's twice. Mine was 2.5 times its normal size because my body had adapted to this negative pressure from my lungs into my heart. So measured at 57 millimeters mercury of pressure, normal is supposed to be 15. My heart was 2.5 times its normal size. And I saw multiple ologists. They all told me the same thing. And the prognosis was death within 24 months or less, unless you succumb to a double lung and heart transplant. I was 48 years old. I was what you would have called a healthy person. I ate good food. I meditate regularly. I was doing all the right things that we believe we're supposed to be doing to be healthy and lead a great lifestyle. I had conversations with my family after doing all sorts of research, one on the condition, secondary on what's the double lung and heart transplant going to look like. And in speaking with my cardiologist, he basically said, Gilles, if you do nothing, you're likely going to be dead in 2 years. If you agree to this transplant, you probably have 5 good years left. And I remember looking at him and say, what does 5 good years look like? And he looked at me and says, you're going to be alive. And I said, well, what am I going to be able to do? He said, oh, probably not much. And so in conversation with my family and my own prayerful way and meditative way, I had already made the decision that I was not going to go through with a double lung and heart transplant. Had a conversation with my children, told them the same thing, and they looked at me, 3 of them, and simultaneously said, do what you want to do, Dad. That's what you need to do. And if that's not what you want to do, then don't do it. So I prepared myself for retirement. In between, I was using Ventolin while I was in practice almost every 30 minutes to be able to breathe long enough and well enough to be able to take care of my patients. So on the 14th of April in 2004, I officially retired. And I did what people do when they know they're going to die. I did all my preparation, planned my funeral, did all of that stuff. And on the 15th of May, 31 days later, I woke up, and I won't tell you the exact words I heard because they were not very nice words, but I heard in my head, you're an idiot, you're a beep, beep idiot. You've been preaching and teaching the chiropractic paradigm of health and healing for 25 years. There must be something seriously wrong with your spine and nervous system. And then I thought, well, how could there be? I get checked by a chiropractor every once in a while, every week or two. And then the revelation was, but never by the same chiropractor. I got checked by buddies. So I was receiving really substandard care. Automatically grabbed the phone, called my former office manager, went in, had a thorough examination, had x-rays done, came back the next day for the report of findings. And what was discovered is that my spine looked pretty good, but it was what I was referred to as a complete mess from C7, which is that bump at the base of your neck, down 4 levels to T4. The nerves that bring the power to the function of your heart and lungs exit your spine between T1 and T4. So I had what we call in the chiropractic profession subluxations, displacement of these vertebrae from their normal. I had no pain in my back. I had no pain in my neck, but the power, the electrical power that was going to my heart and lungs was actually being diminished because of nerve interference. I started getting adjusted daily, 5 days a week. Within 12 weeks, my pulmonary pressure had dropped from 57 to 27, again, normal being 15. Within 1 year, my pulmonary pressure was normal. Within 2 years, I no longer had cardiomegaly, which means my heart went from 2.5 times normal back to normal. And I was healthy again. And I, even as a chiropractor, at the time had been a chiropractor for 27 years, was completely amazed at the body's innate ability to heal when there's no interference. And not to impress you, but at age 70, last October 8th, 2025, I won the gold medal at the World Masters Track and Field Championship in the 400 meters, the toughest race in track and field, and I'm continuing to train. So this is my first time being with all of you, but I wanted you to hear the story, to see the possibility. Again, not to impress upon you, but rather not to impress you, but rather to impress upon you what's possible. So in closing, let us remember We were created to be self-developing, self-maintaining, self-healing, provided there's no interference. Instead of relying on drugs and surgery, except in true crises, which often happens, we must consider all modalities on our health journey and focus on restoring function, not just fighting disease. Know that a well-functioning spine and a well-functioning nervous system are foundational to health and vitality, helping us rebuild our immune system and grow stronger rather than simply trying to kill, cut, or chemically suppress a problem. For many people, chiropractic care offers a safer, more accessible, and more affordable path to honoring the body's design and supporting its innate ability to heal and have us all be healthy. Thanks again, Tony, for allowing me to be on, and grateful to be on with all these fantastic people, and so grateful to Leigh Merinoff, as well as you, Tony, for creating this forum that is really spreading across, not only across our nation, but across the world.
Thanks so much, Gilles, for coming on. And that it really is crazy that you were told that you had 5 good years left. My brother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and was told that he had 6 months left, and wound up trying just all kinds of different modalities and then lived 10 years. So the point is that we can heal, that we shouldn't give up, that whatever the prognosis is, fight it. And if you're healthy, use preventative tactics like chiropractic. It's such an important part of the medical profession. It needs to be recognized. It needs to get reimbursement through, health benefits. It needs to be the first line of defense, with a lot of other modalities, but, really taken seriously and brought out of the shadows to the forefront. So thanks so much for your role in getting that done.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Next up, we have a legendary healer. His name is Dr. Daniel Pompa. He is, a key part and friend to the MAHA movement. He's helped so many people. He's the author of the Cellular Healing Diet and is a leading cellular health expert and teaching practitioners worldwide, focused on detox strategies. So grateful for the work that you've done and thrilled to have you on today. Thanks for coming back.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here. Gilles, oh my gosh, hearing you, the man is a wealth of knowledge, and so appreciative for that message. The power that made the body heals the body. All we can do is remove the interference, let the body do the rest. And that is a chiropractic message, MAHA, that chiropractors have resonated on, for many years. And now we, as a group, center around that. Russell, you said it, right? Get to the cause. Very different than what modern medicine is built on. Removing the interference, getting to the cause. That's what MAHA's about. Okay, that said, God just keeps hijacking my message in a good way. He keeps just overriding what I think I'm going to talk about, and then he just stirs me in my heart like he often does. And I pray I always listen to that, and today I am. Look, I think, and I hope you all know this. I mean, Tony, you said it at the top of the show, that we are being divided. Look what's happening on social media, the divide. They're trying to divide us because this is what the enemy does, meaning we are in spiritual warfare, whether you realize it or not. It's like gravity. You may not see it, but if you step off this building that I'm on, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to experience it. And I'm sure we have many religious beliefs on this call, but I think we all resonate around that, what's happening right now. And the reason is because the enemy takes people's lives when he can take their health and well-being. And what's happening right now, it's happening in our children. My children is the first generation not to outlive their parents, and look at the chronic disease in children. But here's the problem. We are in a spiritual warfare. Therefore, we have to act like it, right? So I feel like God stirred me into this message as opposed to the one that I was going to give, to challenge you all to not just be not fooled by what's happening on social media. So much of what you read, many of you perhaps spread it. Please don't buy in to oftentimes the messages that are being brought to us, because it is about division. But my challenge is to unite you. But more of a challenge is to just hopefully stir something, if not me, the Holy Spirit in you, to realize that you're the warriors. We have some leaders here that are leading this charge, but you all are the warriors. We need to step up as a group, not just being divided, but quite the opposite, but being united around this message. Trust your leaders. A few weeks ago, I spoke Rak Chazak Amatz, and those are Hebrew words that if you look in your Bible, it's where everywhere it says, be strong and courageous. But the Hebrew of Rak Chazak Amatz, those are the actual words, means so much more. And I had so many of you reach out to me from delivering those. So I want to remind you a little bit about those words, because I want to remind you, because here's the problem. I believe not me, but God is calling you to a higher level in this mission, right? How many of you could spread positive videos about MAHA? How many of you could tell more people about this call, right? And unite around what we're doing. But fear keeps us from doing that. So when you look in your Bible, and it talks and it uses the word be strong and courageous, it's typically where someone was about to step into a further calling and a promise. The word rock, it really means that it's a resolve, that God says, be resolved and be strong. Don't let fear overwhelm you. The word kazak in the Hebrew, and again, I'm paraphrasing, it's more of a physical, unmovable, be unmovable. Do not back down, right? David stepped into Goliath and he was just unmovable. It really is more of a military calling that this line is not going to move, death before backing up one physical step backwards. But I think Amatz does it even the most justice, because that's a spiritual boldness, right? When David stepped in with Goliath, he wasn't going into his own strength. David was moving with spiritual boldness, knowing that his God was going to really deal with the giant that was in front of him. He was a giant slayer because he had Amatz. So Rak Chazak Amatz, right? God uses that. He speaks that to somebody as they're ready to step further in to what God has for us. If you're on this call, I challenge you to step further into the promise that God has for those people crying out for an answer. You know how many people and children right now are crying out for an answer? You know what modern medicine is bringing them? Another drug. There's a time and a place, but chasing symptoms is the answer. Oh, and vaccines, the holy grail, right? We're going to protect companies because they're giving more toxic chemicals as a method to health. Gilles said it. It's removing the interference, letting the body do the healing, right? We are stepping into that calling. We are bringing a healing right now that the world needs more than ever. For such a time as this, many of you need to step further into the calling. But again, the fear, all of the things I can't, what will I offer? No, I challenge you to pray. I challenge you to get on your knees and ask God what you can further do. But Rak Chazak Amatz, in the paraphrase of the whole meaning is this: God has stepped in before you. He has dealt with the fears that you have. As Israel crossed the Jordan, all they saw was the 31 armies and many were backing up. But God spoke through Joshua, Rak Chazak Amatz Israel, meaning I'll deal with that. I will deal with the people who are trying to come against this organization, MAHA. I will deal with what you have fear over, and I will step into that calling for you. So I challenge you to step into the calling. The battle's spiritual, but Rak Chazak Amatz. And Tony, I speak it to you and your team because I know what you're dealing with on the ground. It is a spiritual battle. And I'll tell you, I don't care what you believe. It's real and it's true because we're standing up for children and the enemy hates it.
Yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much, Dr. Pompa. And it's so important not to give in to the fear, not to back down, that we have to stick together, even though we disagree, that our disagreement, our anger at certain things, certain turns, that's legitimate. That's fine. We should back that, but we need to stick together because they will win if they can find a way to divide us. So that's the key thing.
And what Dr. Malone said, right? Look what's going on with Casey. That's spiritual in nature. We need to pray for her and we need to step up. And then what Rand Paul said, so, we need to step up and, we need to be behind this new legislation that's protecting drug companies, right? All of us need to step up. And that's what God's calling us to do.
Yeah, because deep down, they fear Casey Means because she's going to challenge the status quo. She's not going to put up with this system that has failed the American public. So we have to stand up for her because she's going to stand up for us. Thanks so much for coming on again, and I'll definitely see you again soon. Next up, we have Pete Evans, who is the author of the MAHA Cookbook. He's a famous chef. He's a restaurateur, a businessman, a speaker, an author, a TV personality, a documentary producer. He hosts a podcast, knows all about nutrition and emotional well-being. And his passion is healthy food. And he's writing these incredible books for the MAHA Books imprint on, healthier food, eating real food. And very grateful for all the work you've been doing and for bringing these healthy books, healthy food, healthy recipes to all the MAHA movement.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me, and g'day everyone that's out there listening, and the amazing speakers on here as well. What a privilege to be able to chat for a few minutes about. I think my T-shirt says it all: food is medicine, and it's something that I invite. I guess one of my greatest wishes would be for people to get back into the kitchen and not see it as a chore, not see it as a burden, but to look at food and the art of cooking as something to be celebrated and something to be looked forward to each and every day. I do believe one of the greatest acts of self-love is to cook yourself a delicious meal and then to share that with your friends and family. And how do we make cooking sexy again? We've had all of these wonderful cooking shows over the last couple of decades that have been across all of our screens on mainstream media. And it seems to be that it's nearly there to pivot into the home cook. And I think over the last few decades, the information that has been pushed out there by the Dietetics Association and GPs, medical fraternity, has been a little bit skewed, whereas what we're seeing now with the change of the dietary guidelines pushed through by our mate Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the team is the first step for that. And listening to Leigh talk about the wonderful food programs that she and her team are putting together to get real food into hospitals, real food into the schooling system, I think the cascading the cascade of that is going to be so profound over the coming generations. I've often said to Bobby, he's got the biggest ship in the world to turn around, and a lot of people expect it to happen overnight. And anybody that's been on a boat, especially a big boat, knows that to shift something or to turn it in a new direction does take time. It's like a little speedboat that you can just turn the steering wheel and it changes course really quickly. And I just want to celebrate and congratulate everybody that is working to move this big ship in a new direction. And in saying that, some of these things will take time, as we've heard on the chat today. But that doesn't stop individuals and families and communities to be able to turn their own ship very, very quickly and understand that food can be medicine. It's one of the tools that we have. And I always view it as the lowest hanging fruit, to be honest, and pardon the pun. But for us to be able to go to the markets, go to the grocery stores, support the farmers that are on the same path that we are, we can take that control and that impetus and do it today. We can do it. And for some, it could take a little bit of time. And in the MAHA Cookbook, I invite people to, if you're not familiar with cooking and it's not something that you are confident with, just start with one recipe a week from the book, or recipes like mine. You don't have to buy the book, but just start to eat really good quality food. Some meat, some vegetables, start off simple, and then rinse and repeat until you become a, dare I say, a master chef over the coming decades of your life to really celebrate this wonderful craft and art that once we used to have at the top of our priority list. It used to be food was so important to us. And, I invite people to contemplate that and to get back into the kitchen and start cooking beautiful food. Put some great music on, get the vibe going, put your intention into it with love and laughter, and you will be so, I guess, proud of the journey that you can undertake in this experience. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, Pete, I really love what you said. Bobby is kind of, he's up against some of the most powerful people on the planet. And they've been in the business of kind of poisoning the American public, poisoning the entire world. And of course, they're not going to give up easily. And it's going to be a tough ship to turn quickly, But like you said, we can turn on a dime. We can just start living better, healthier, cleaner lives by eating better, healthier, cleaner food. So, thanks for your work getting us there. Thanks for your, making it look like fun, putting out these beautiful books that, make me want to go into the kitchen and start cooking.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Thanks, everybody.
Our next guest is Will Harris, and he is a fourth-generation cattleman who transformed his family farm into a sustainable and humane business. More than 20 years ago, he began the process of transforming his family farm, to use sort of the pre-industrial methods and to, do things the old-fashioned way. And that's a key part of the MAHA movement, is that we want to take the best of the past, but also take the best of modern science, and not think that everything can be done better just by doing it in of course a more chemical toxic way. We all know that's the wrong way to go. So thanks so much for bringing lots of this good information to us, Will, and we're happy to have you on. Welcome to the MAHA Revolution.
Thank you for having me on, Pete. Appreciate it. White Oak Pastures is my farm, our family farm in Bluffton, Georgia, started by my great-grandfather. I'm the fourth generation to operate it, followed by my adult children, followed by, I hope, a bunch of grandchildren on the ground around here. We've had the farm for about 160 years. The farm is about 6,000 acres. We raise cattle, hogs, sheep, goats, poultry, and vegetables. We don't use glyphosate and many of the other technologies that I learned how to use when I was a University of Georgia College of Agriculture student in the 70s. We produce, process, sell, and ship over $30 million of food last year that we ship it all over America. We're proud of the fact that our farm is the largest private employer in Clay County, Georgia. Clay County, Georgia was the poorest county in the United States of America in 2020. It's got a little bit better now, but we've got about 170 employees. We write payroll checks for about $150,000 every Friday. And we're proud to be part of MAHA's effort to feed a lot of Americans good food while supporting this impoverished rural community. Thank you all for having me on today.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, great to have you on. So thank you all for joining us for yet another great MAHA Media Hub week. And, thanks for tuning in each week. And as always, I'm very grateful to all the speakers for their insights, for their dedication, and for their contributions generally to the MAHA movement. And, want to say again that, we have powerful tools at our fingertips. We have the MAHA report on Substack that has nearly 200,000 followers now. And we're really hoping to get that up to higher than 1 million by year end. And we think that's possible. Then we've got the incredible MAHA Institute roundtables, the historic MAHA Summit that debuted last November, that we're going to do again this November, that had about 2,000 people and some really terrific speakers. Then we've got MAHA films, MAHA books, MAHA parties all around the country. We have a mailing list of more than 2 million MAHA warriors that we're hoping to get up to 10 million by the end of the year. And then we've got the thousands and thousands of influencers who are, coming on, watching this show. And there are hundreds of millions of followers all around the country and all around the world. So we're going to harness every bit of that power to work with every cabinet member, every branch of government, every part of this administration that we can help, that we can be a resource to, because we know that the midterms are so important to the future of the MAHA movement. And we know that Americans overwhelmingly want this administration to fight to make America healthy. And we want to be partners in that battle. And we're just going to fight tooth and nail for the next 6 months to make sure that we win the midterm so that Bobby Kennedy and his team can complete the mission that they started. So following this call, you're going to get an email with a recording of this whole show, with some clips, with calls to action, and with ways that you can help us grow and make this movement more powerful. So one of the key things that I just want to say once again, you've heard it from 5 different speakers, but we really want Dr. Casey Means to be confirmed. And the 2 key people are Senators Collins and Murkowski. So we hope that you will call them. Please get your pen, write this down, call Susan Collins, 202-224-2523. Call her and call her and call her and tell her that we just won't stand for it, that she must confirm Dr. Casey Means. The country needs it. We've had an incredible failure of public health in this country, and we need help. And Casey Means is the right person for the job. And the other person is Senator Lisa Murkowski. Her phone number, 202-224-6665. Please call both of them. Call them time after time. Get your friends to call them. This is critical. We need to get this done. And then, go to our website, use our legislative tracker to take action, volunteer, look at all the different bills, subscribe once again to our Substack, and, just work with us. Read the articles that we post, join with us to really fight to make our children healthy, to make this country healthy. We can do it. Thanks so much, and hope to see you again next week.
America's children are sick, and moms have been betrayed. The time for empty promises, long past. Now is a time for action. MAHA is the most powerful force of collective action in generations. The grassroots power of moms and activists has created an army of health warriors with more reach than all mainstream media combined. Together, we can end the chronic disease epidemic. MAHA's influence is reaching millions. It's reaching Congress. And that energy, these chain reactions, are working.
How about Operation Stork Speed?
Dozens of food companies removing toxic ingredients.
I plan to lead by example.
MAHA is now.
We're talking about how to change the culture.
The American people want America healthy again.
There's a renaissance moment in health in America.
For health, freedom, and the truth. Join us at MAHA Action.